must be in heaven, man!
The fun goes up, the car goes by.
We must be in heaven, man!
Welcome to the 60s. The 60s was a decade that many loved due to a thought of freedom, but many also hated it because of the constant protests held by the hippies. This decade is remembered by many for dishing out the high quality music and film, and we are here to tell you how it all happened. Follow us as we guide you through the peace issues, Woodstock, the UK's take on hippies, the most classic films, and a whole lot more. Peace was a very serious issue in the 1960s, with many protesting to ban the bomb. This forced many people in America to unite and become hippies, all of which began to wear colourful clothes, take various drugs such as cannabis, and have a very relaxed outlook on life. The phrase flower power came into effect with the use of brightly coloured flowers and symbols plastered on buildings and vehicles, most notably the Volkswagen Surf van. The UK was deeply influenced by America in the 60s due to the way in which they were changing. Artists such as Cliff Richard came onto the scene with his Eurovision hit, Congratulations, and Dusty Springfield conquered the charts with The Look of Love. This was a big time for Britain as they tried to mould themselves on their idols, copying their clothes, but it also gave stray teenagers people to look up to. However, the use of cannabis caused trouble for some people, and there were many protests and outbreaks, which was a big problem for the country. Woodstock, a festival held in 1969 between August 15th and August the 18th, was held on a dairy farm in White Lake, New York. The festival contained lots of sex, drugs and rock and roll, all of which hippies participated in. There were a number of people performing over the 4 days, ranging from the Creedence Clearwater Revival with their hit Proud Mary, Jimi Hendrix with Voodoo Child, and The Who with My Generation, plus lots more. It certainly was a generation that many loved. What was it like to live in the 60s?
It's a little bit difficult to remember, and I was a child of 7 to 17, but I was in the country and it seemed like a good time.
Fun, exciting, a lot of rebellion going on, I think you might call it.
What music were you brought up with in the 60s and who influenced your musical choices?
I might just say that I grew up in South Africa, didn't grow up in England, and we didn't have TV in those days, but we had a radio programme called LM Radio, and they played all sort of the British and American hits, and so...
Well, in the 60s I can remember Cliff Richard, the Beatles, Dave Clark 5 and the Monkees, and my very favourite was Motown. And the influences was coming from Top of the Pops, which was probably on a Thursday night.
Who influenced it? Well, I liked the Rolling Stones has always been one of my favourite bands, so that style of music, heavy rock.
Were you involved in the whole flower power and hippie phases of the 60s? And if so, why?
Just on the outskirts, really. I wore miniskirts, had long straight hair.
I wasn't really involved in it, apart from there were flowers on everything. So you had flowers in your hair, we wore long dresses. It seemed a very happy, gentle time, no violence.
Although I was one of the odd ones, I started off being a rocker, with the leathers and the chains and the big ape hanger on my Bonneville motorbike. And I didn't make the clean transition from that, so I just started riding around on my motorbike with all my mates in their leathers, while I had orange pants, flowers in my hair, and flowery shirts.
One thing that really sticks out for a lot of people is the quality of the movies in the USA at this time. The likes of The Graduate was released in 1967, a film that stars Elaine Ann Bancroft as a cougar, Mrs. Robinson, seducing the young Dustin Hoffman, which was recently ranked 7th in the greatest movies of all time in a recent American poll. This could be down to how personal and important a lot of people saw this film, with the idea of freedom during the 60s. The soundtrack to this film was written by Simon and Garfunkel with the title track Mrs. Robinson and The Sound of Silence. Other golden films to grace the silver screen at this time were Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, starring the legendary Betty Davis, and Mary Poppins, starring Julie Andrews. As the 60s drew to a close, so did the era of the hippies and the psychedelic natures of the world. The music began to change and feature a lot more disco inferno instead of green tambourines, and new actors began starring in films, ending the Hollywood Golden Age. We hope that you have learnt a lot from us and tune in next time for our 70s instalment. But until then, we bid you farewell. Peace out.